Okay, what is position-based wrestling? So positioning does three things. We know this. It makes you faster, makes you stronger, and it limits what your opponent can do to you. So if you're in a great wrestling stance, let's say you're in a basketball stance, you are not very fast, you're not very explosive. But if you're bent over in kind of a track runner position, sort of, you know that you're faster off of the line, and you're coming off the line when you're attacking. Your feet are wide, your center of gravity is low, there's some lateral movement there. The shortstop is in a different position than the track runner. So in wrestling, we're kind of both. So we know that our positioning, because you just got to watch a shortstop or a track runner and say, their position is such that it's giving them the best chances of being fast and explosive. So positioning makes you faster. Positioning makes you stronger. That's the reason there's technique in the weight room when you're squatting weight or picking up a heavy suitcase, you name it. So we know that positioning makes us faster and stronger. Think about your bottom base on wrestling. If you're weak on bottom, you probably have weak positioning. So good wide base on bottom, a power position we call it, makes you faster, and it also makes you stronger, but it also limits what your opponent can do to you. So if someone stands up in a big, wide open basketball stance, you see a lot of leg attacks and secondary attacks. You don't know where to begin. There's so much attack opportunity here. But if that wrestler bends over in a real low, tight stance, we know that there's less opportunity. So great positioning makes you faster and stronger, limits what your opponent can do to you. That's the reason at our academy and camps, we preach position-based wrestling. So there's a few wrestlers who can move around nonstop, like John Smith did back in the day. David Taylor moves a lot, but I don't see that anywhere else. An Olympic champ years ago talked about holding position in wrestling and sprints, and I have found that that's probably the best approach for most of us. At least, we say this, once you're ranked top 10 in America in high school and the famous coaches are contacting you, then we can worry about other stuff. But right now, let's get very good very fast. So that's what we call position-based wrestling. And that's why we do that. Because what happens is this, some of you say, my kid can't shoot, and I watch them wrestle, and I'm like, that's because their position is terrible and they're not explosive. There were some opportunities there, but by the time they got down in a stance to strike, because remember, a coiled up snake is always dangerous. So if you're coiled up at all times, you're always dangerous. You're ready to strike. Secondly, if you have bad positioning on your feet, but you can have bad positioning on top, bad leg riding positioning, bad cradle positioning. You stand up, I'm behind you. I have good or bad mat return positioning, right? And so if you're a member of our online academy, you know all of this stuff. You're probably not even watching. Don't really need to. But there's positioning in these areas as well. But what happens is when you're in a bad stance on your feet, your opponents are in on your legs so often. How do you have time to score? You don't have time to shoot. You don't have time to get to the legs because they're ripping your legs off. So there's some educational information there on position-based wrestling. And we're going through our addition to our online academy. We have a mental game confidence course, choosing your wrestling style. For example, if you want to choose your wrestling style, you need to write down your strengths and weaknesses, circle the perceived weaknesses, because there may not be a weakness. For example, one wrestler says, I'm too tall. Another wrestler says, I'm too short. And we're like, well, I can name a couple of Olympic champions who are tall and short. So those are perceived weaknesses. Then you're going to take a highlighter and highlight the weaknesses that you can fix or help. Anybody can get more flexible or get stronger. That doesn't mean you can be a power wrestler like Terry Brands or Brandon Slay. And it doesn't mean just because you can get faster and more explosive that you can ever wrestle like Jordan Burroughs. So, in many ways, when we start to reverse engineer what our wrestling style is, there's some tactics that we use. And we go over this at our seminars at our 28-day camp. So that's a section. We have a coaching section on how to build an empire, parenting section. But our confidence course is going to be massive and huge. So I've been working on this probably 18 hours over the past 2 days trying to get this all pushed out before we get into summer camp season, which is upon us. So either way, appreciate you guys following us. I hope this information helps. Share it with 5 others. Like and subscribe. Help me out a little bit and share this. Thank you guys.